Do you think that in a relationship that people should connect emotionally, or is there something else that should happen?
Yeah, I think people should connect emotionally. Yeah.
And why? Emotions are not real, they're fake. It doesn't last, it never works. Why should they do it that way?
Well, let me say, I want to do it that way. You can do whatever the hell you want. I want to connect with my partners emotionally. And why? I feel lonely if I don't. I feel like that's the whole point. To me, a relationship to me is not about like, somebody to have sex with and somebody to make me dinner. It's more about emotional intimacy. That's what I want out of the relationship in the first place. I want to feel like somebody knows me and somebody is really truly holding my hand as we plummet towards death.
That's amazing, man. This is so interesting to me.
Beta, this guy is a pure beta. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to Culture War. Imagine what he said, holding hands together until we honor life. That is wild. I don't know about you, but that is wild. Now, just interviewed this guy. Very interesting guy. He talked about so many other topics like racism, and emotional alpha male, beta male, and stuff like that. Very interesting interview, guys. You need to see this for yourself. So no more spoilers. If you're not subscribed to the channel, what are you waiting for? Hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bells to get more videos like this. So without further ado, let's dive in.
I have with me Max Karson. He is a host on the YouTube channel, Mr. Girl. Max, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, Jesse.
Yeah, I was going over some of your videos and they're very, very interesting. So I want to know what's important to you.
Well, I think the country is too divided, and I am interested in kind of trying to get people to understand each other across those party lines.
And what is it that people need to understand?
That other people are human, no matter how disgusting or depraved or vile we think these people are. They're human just like you and me.
Are you surprised at the way human beings treat one another?
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty horrible sometimes.
Why do you think that is?
Well, I think a lot of us have trouble looking in the mirror. And so when we see something in somebody else that reminds us of something we don't like in ourselves, we lash out in fear and disgust.
Amazing. So, Max, are you Christian or Jewish?
I'm actually an atheist.
You're an atheist.
I'm an atheist.
But are you like a Jewish atheist or a Christian atheist?
Well,
because I can
don't know.
tell if you would. Some people, I read some of your things. People say you're Jewish, but I can't tell.
Well, so race-wise, I'm part Jewish, but
Okay.
I grew up celebrating Christmas and Easter like a good little American. But I was raised with no religion whatsoever, so I never went to church or synagogue.
Nice. And so, how would you describe? You say you're an atheist. What is that exactly?
I don't believe in God.
Do you believe there is a God, or you don't believe in a God?
I think there is no God.
Really? And why do you think that?
I guess that's just what I was raised to believe. But I think most people from my hometown of Amherst, Massachusetts, most people I knew there were also atheists. There was not a lot of religion there.
Oh, and so were your parents non-religious as well?
Yeah, my parents were non-religious and my grandparents were non-religious. So my family is very atheist in general.
Really?
Yeah.
What is it like not to believe in a God or to believe there is no God? For you, what is life like?
Well, it's kind of scary knowing that or believing that I'm just going to die meaninglessly and disappear forever, and that there's no heaven or hell. And I think religious people seem to have this sense of safety, like somebody's watching and cares about them. And I just don't have that.
And so where do all of your conflict come from? Where does it come from? You have inner conflict. Where does that come from?
I think that you're saying that like religious people have inner conflict because they have a like a tug of war with their morality.
No, all people have conflict. They
Okay.
experience fear and doubt and worry, loneliness, depression, suicidal thought. A void is missing. A void within them as though something is missing. And they're up and down emotionally. They feel good. They feel bad. They feel good. Then they want to jump off a bridge. Where does those emotions come from for you?
My girlfriend. No, sometimes my girlfriend. I think a lot of my childhood, like many people, was traumatic or difficult, and then since then, my kind of relationship with the world has been pretty difficult. I started writing when I was in high school, and from then and then college, and then now with my YouTube channel, I've had many different instances of kind of like mobs of people being very, very angry at me. And so that also provides quite a bit of inner conflict.
And why? Why do you care what they think or say?
Because I love them.
But if you love them, you wouldn't care.
Well, I don't think that's true. I love people. And so it hurts me when they hate me.
And so do you get your identity from people?
No, I think I have a pretty strong sense of self, or I get it from some people, maybe friends and girlfriend, people in my personal life more than I get it from online.
Amazing. So I definitely want to ask you about your girlfriend. Yeah. I read that you were raised with, as you just said, you have no religion. So were you raised by your father and mother or just mother?
My parents divorced when I was 10, and then they both married women.
They both married women?
They both married women.
Your mother married a woman too?
My mother married a woman.
What the? And
I know.
What did that have an impact on you when she did that?
Somewhat. I think the impact was more that she broke up our little nuclear family by leaving, and then the woman she married kind of hated me, and then my mother sort of started hating men. So,
amazing. And so, did you go live?
Pretty awful.
Did you go live with your mother after that? I mean, your father after that, or?
I lived with both.
Oh, okay.
Half with each parent, and then when I was 16, my mother told me to go live with my father full time.
And did you get along with the stepmother with your father?
No.
Why?
Sort of. Why? I think she just didn't want kids.
She didn't like kids?
Not really, no.
And when you would tell your father, this lady don't like me, she doesn't like kids, what would he say about that?
I was a little more easygoing when I was 16, so I kind of just tried my best to tiptoe around everybody.
Amazing, man. When you were growing up, is it true that your mother told you gender is a social construct?
She did say that, and that was you got to remember that this is Amherst, this very liberal town, so they're probably 15 or 20 years ahead of where everybody else was. So this was in 1999. It was pretty widely accepted in my little town that gender is a social construct. Yeah.
So I'm black and slow. I don't know exactly what that means when someone says that you're told that gender is a social construct. What's a social construct with gender?
What does you being black have to do with this?
I'm slow. Well, I am black. Can you tell? Can you see me?
I see that you're black, but what do you think? Black people are slow?
No, I said I am.
But what does it matter that you're black?
I didn't say black people. I said I'm black and slow, and I don't know what gender. Gender is a social construct. Yeah, what is social construct when it comes to
the James Brown song? Say it loud. I'm black and
I'm black
slow.
and I'm proud, but I'm black and I'm slow.
Okay.
What the?
It means that the roles that we play in society and the way the meaning that we derive from being a man or being a woman is human generated. There's nothing inherent to being a man or being a woman from our biology that makes us fit into society the way that we do.
Really? And do you believe that's true?
I think that's an oversimplification. I think it's somewhat true, but obviously, if you look at like mice or like bees, like, the males and females do have distinct roles in their society. So I think it's somewhat true.
But when we are born, we automatically know that boys know that they're boys and girls know that they're girls, and there's no question or doubt about it. It's not something that is assigned to us by human beings. We were created that way by God. So, is that true?
I don't think that's true.
Why not?
Well, I think that if you look at the way men act in like Japan and the way that men act in like South Central LA, they're very different.
Right.
So what it means to be a man, it can be a very different, or like a Korean pop star. If you look at them compared to like, Sylvester Stallone in like the 80s, masculinity, clearly that's clearly not all biology. I think there's a lot of cultural influence on how we express our masculinity.
When I was growing up, men were tougher. They understood how to lead the wife and the children. They made the children work, and they taught us not to be a fear, don't worry, don't have all that stuff. And so men grew up inwardly tough, not all emotional and sensitive like a woman, right? And so because of the environment, we were raised that way, not to care about what other people say or think about you, work hard, taking care of yourself, love everyone, even your enemy. And now that has all changed because the environment has changed. And the men are the same as the woman in the way that they act. But that doesn't make them a woman. They are men or males acting like the woman, weak and emotional and fearful and angry and stuff like that. But they still a male. That didn't change who they are.
I don't think showing your emotions is weak.
Why not?
I don't think being vulnerable is weak. I agree that if you show your emotions, people maybe can hurt you more. But I don't think that's a sign of weakness. If you can show your emotions and still stand strong, then that takes even more strength than it does to hide them.
Do you think that it's a normal state of being to be vulnerable and emotional for a man?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Well, it's not. It's an abnormal state of being. At what age were you when your mother told you gender is a social construct? How old were you at that time?
I think I was 14.
And how do you remember how you reacted to that?
Yeah, I said, I don't want to talk about this.
That's right. And she didn't want you to be a man?
I don't think so.
That's amazing.
I know.
Do you think that has something to do with the way you see things now?
Sure. I think it's inevitable.
So then you know that what she told you was wrong then, right?
Yeah, I mean, even if you believe that, I think telling a 14-year-old that is a complicated, is a thing you should handle delicately. And I think she was enjoying making me uncomfortable by saying it.
That's amazing. Have you forgiven her for that?
No.
And why not?
Because she hasn't given me any reason to.
She has given you a reason to. You're miserable on the inside, so that's a reason to forgive her so you can be free. What the?
I think forgiving her would just make me more miserable.
Why? Why do you think that?
Because I just don't I don't want any type of relationship with her.
You don't have to have a relationship with her to be forgiven. You can go free and overcome the trauma.
I guess I don't think there is any overcoming.
Yeah, there
trauma.
is.
I don't think so.
Are you joking or are you serious?
I'm serious.
And why is that?
I think you can kind of integrate it into your life better and not let it ruin your life totally. but it's going to partially ruin your life. I mean, that's why it's important not to traumatize your kids, because they can't really ever get over it.
They can get over it. They just don't know how. Do you plan to get married to have children one day?
I don't know.
Well, if you do and you get married in the state of being, you're going to end up traumatizing your children in the same way that you've been traumatized. You may not do the same action or use the same words, but it would be the same spirit.
Yeah, I get your line of thought here. I just don't agree. I think the opposite. I think that if you delude yourself into thinking that you're cured or fixed, and that you've let go of your feelings, then I think that person is likely to traumatize their kids in the same way.
And so you're just going to live a life of misery your whole life? Life
not
of
miserable.
hell? What?
I'm not miserable all the time, just sometimes.
Amazing. So what was it like living with your father? Are you close to him?
No.
You're not?
No.
Do you want to be closer to him?
No.
You do not?
No. I don't speak to either of my parents.
That's amazing, man.
I know, it's been like 10 years.
Do you believe that racism exists?
Yes.
And what is racism?
I think racism is when you hold individuals accountable for your perception of their group as a whole. When you make assumptions about people based on how they look and then treat them poorly because of those assumptions. And when you hold negative feelings about people because of how they look.
We're as far as political, where do you stand? Are you liberal, conservative, Democrat, Republican? Where are you on that?
I'm definitely not a Trump supporter. I really don't like Trump. I've never voted for a Republican in my life, but I would say that I'm a centrist. I have views. Sometimes, like I have guns, and I am pro Second Amendment. I'm pro free speech. I'm mostly pro choice, but I have some mixed feelings about that. I don't really subscribe to any particular political group.
What is it about the Great White Hope that you don't support?
The Great White Hope. Can you be more specific about what you mean there, Jesse?
I don't frankly have time for total political correctness, and this country doesn't have time either.
That's the Great White Hope.
That Great White Hope.
That Great White Hope. Donald Trump.
Yeah.
Why is it you don't support him? What is it that you disagree with?
I don't think he respects the First Amendment.
You don't think the president respects the freedom of speech?
No.
Why? I mean, he's totally for that.
I don't think so.
Why? What has he done to imply that he doesn't?
He's made remarks about punishing news organizations for stories he doesn't like. He would call them inaccurate, but either way, the government should not talk about or threaten to shut down news organizations for saying things the government doesn't like. He said that he wanted to ban Muslims from entering the country, which is a religious persecution that can't happen under the First Amendment.
But they're not part of our. We are a Christian country, and Muslims hate the Christians and the Jews, and they're worthy of death because they're infidels. Why would you want that? Bring your enemy into your country, knowing that they're your enemy.
Well, that's what's so tough about the First Amendment, is that you have to allow people who you think hate you and who maybe you hate say what they think and to practice the religion that they believe in, even if that religion says that you're going to go to hell.
But they can practice it, just not in our home. They can still be in Allahu Abba land and do their own thing with their little so-called religion, right? We just don't want them here doing that. I mean, you know that they hate the Christians and Jews. Why wouldn't you want to ban them from your country?
The First Amendment.
It's for the American people. It's not for the outsiders.
True, but it creates a conflict of the First Amendment when you are telling, there's a lot of Muslims in the country. So you're telling people, like, your family members can't come here, not because of what country they're in, but because of their religion. It's still a religious persecution that's not allowed under the First Amendment.
But it's not just because of their religion. It's because they disagree with Christianity. They hate it. They would kill them. And so I get why you don't. I understand why you don't. I get why you don't like Muslims. I don't dislike them. I'm just saying, if I know you're going to kill me, I'm not going to invite you to come to my home.
Sure. Well, I've met a lot of Muslims and worked with Muslims and been friends with Muslims, and none of them have killed me. But
that's because you're not a Christian or Jew.
But whatever you feel about that religion, or whatever people on the left feel about Christians, whatever anybody feels about Jews, it is still a violation of the First Amendment to wall a religion out from entering the country.
That's not true.
Okay.
It's a violation if they are citizens of this country, not if they're outside the country. I want to ask, how do you feel, or what's your opinion about the way that most black people feel about white people? Most black people, the blacks, they hate the whites, and they blame the whites for all of their failure, all of their downfall, all their inabilities, and everything. What do you think about that?
I think a lot of black people do hold resentment towards white people. I don't think all of them do.
No, not all, but most do.
I don't know if it's most, but it's a lot. I agree with that. Yeah.
And so what do you think? Why is that? And is that right?
It's understandable. Is it right? Probably not. No. I think if you don't want people to be racist to you, then you shouldn't be racist to other people. And I think that liberals have a tendency to sidestep that point. And so they're very hands-off when black people are racist towards white people. They're very understanding and careful about it, and say they won't even call it racism. But I think that ultimately, if we want a country where people don't hate each other based on the color of their skin, then we all kind of have to let it go.
And when you say it's understandable that most of the blacks, not all of them, not all, but most of them hate white people, what's understandable about that?
Well, slavery.
Slavery what?
I think slavery started a lot of really bad feelings.
Why do you think that?
Well, I think slavery made black people feel really bad at the time because they were told that they were subhuman. And although slavery has been abolished and we are now equal under the law, I still think that black people have, and sometimes still do, occupied a lower rung in society than white people. And I think that makes many black people resentful.
So you think that the black slave owners made other black slaves feel that way?
No. What black slave are you talking about, like in Africa?
No, in America, there are many black slave owners as well. It wasn't just white people owning the black, it was black people owning blacks as well. And are you saying that those black people made other black people feel the way they feel today?
Yeah, they certainly played a part in it. Sure. Yeah.
Amazing. So if that's true, why is it that after slavery ended, Black people did much better then than they are today as far as family, businesses, not blaming anyone, appreciating America? They didn't judge their fellow man, but they loved their fellow man. And so they did very well with everything. Why did they do better right after slavery than they are today when they can really do what they want today?
I think there's a moment after your tormentor lets you go where you just want to kiss their feet and you just feel grateful. And then I think the rage comes later. I also think that it's probably a very exciting time. It's exciting to rise up. So if you're going from being a slave to just being, on a lower rung of society, that's still a huge difference. So that was probably very exciting and elating, I would even say. But then if you stagnate at that lower rung of society, I could see that resentment would start to creep back in.
So you're saying that after slavery ended, and for years Black people were doing quite well, that they were doing that because they were kissing the feet of the white man?
No, I'm not saying that we're kissing the feet of the white man, but I'm saying that it's understandable that you would just feel like good about being freed during those years.
So,
and I think it's also
finish your point.
I just think it's also understandable that as you see that you're actually not really still being treated like equals, that you would then get pissed off again.
So you're saying, if I'm hearing you correctly, that for years Black people did very well because they were so happy to be free, and then and they were not thinking about slavery anymore. They're not into it. But then somehow or another, generations later, after my generation, they realized, oh, my ancestors were enslaved. Let me feel bad and let me start begging and fighting and blaming. They all of a sudden remembered.
I guess I also don't know if I agree that they were doing well.
They were. I grew up in that time during the Jim Crow law. My parents and my grandparents and their parents, and they weren't into all this mess.
What mess? Being angry?
Blaming, being angry, robbing and stealing and raping, wanting reparations and affirmative actions and all that kind of stuff. They were not into all that at all.
And you're asking me to explain it to you? You're saying you don't understand it?
Yeah,
I can understand. I can understand you're saying you don't feel it, but like you're saying you don't understand it. You don't get why Black people are angry?
Right. I don't understand. I know why they're angry, but it's not because of slavery. All of a sudden, the generation that had nothing to do with slavery, everything is handed to them. And all of a sudden, they had a certain thought about slavery, and they started to give up on life because they had a thought about slavery that they know nothing about. And the way that history has been rewritten about slavery is not true. I can't believe you think that all of a sudden they remember something that they were never involved in.
No, I'm not saying they're remembering slavery. I just think slavery is like a kind of like emblematic example. It's a very tangible example of being treated like you are lower.
Amazing. And give me a couple of examples of how they're being treated that way. And who is doing the treating? Who is doing the treating of them in that way?
I have a friend who constantly gets asked if he lives in his own apartment building.
Is he Black?
He's Black.
And what does that mean when they ask that?
You're not supposed to be here. What are you doing here?
And why do you think that?
I think it's because he's Black. I don't know. I hear and see a lot of stories like that happening all the time to Black people. And so it's subtle, or I guess that's not that subtle. And there's obviously stories of things that aren't subtle at all. But I don't think it's a policy of any apartment building to question Black people in the lobby. I just think it happens.
So your friend asked a black person, "Do you live in this apartment building?"
No, my friend is the black person who
Oh,
gets
and he
asked
would
if they
ask
live-
that.
Yeah.
Could have, and I don't know, I wasn't there. Could it have been because blacks are so violent and knocking out and robbing you in the buildings now? They don't care.
Could be.
So how is that wrong then?
Well, you asked me my definition of racism. The first thing I said was holding individuals accountable for the actions of people who look like them. So I think it's wrong, even if there is a higher crime rate among black people, it is wrong to treat black people as though they're criminals.
Is there a higher crime rate amongst black people?
Yes.
Do you believe white supremacy exists?
I think that some white people think they are the best race. Yeah.
And is that what you would call white supremacy?
Yeah.
And so there are black people who think that they're the best race. Are they black supremacy?
Yes.
Amazing. Do you love white people?
Yes.
Nice. Do you think that in a relationship that people should connect emotionally, or is there something else that should happen?
Yeah, I think people should connect emotionally. Yeah.
And why? Emotions are not real, they're fake. It doesn't last, it never works. Why should they do it that way?
Well, let me say I want to do it that way. You can do whatever the hell you want. I want to connect with my partners emotionally. And why? I feel lonely if I don't. I feel like that's the whole point. To me, a relationship to me is not about somebody to have sex with or somebody to make me dinner. It's more about emotional intimacy. That's what I want out of the relationship in the first place. I want to feel like somebody knows me and somebody is really, truly holding my hand as we plummet towards death.
That's amazing, man. This is so interesting to me. So you and Shaylin connect in that way where she take away your loneliness?
Yeah.
So you're not lonely anymore?
Sometimes, but less so.
So she doesn't take it away. It's just sometimes you don't feel that when you're with her.
Yeah.
So it's not taken away then. Do you plan to marry her? Would you like to marry her and start a family?
I would like to marry her. I don't think that I am ready to do that. We've only been together like I guess almost 3 years. A family? I don't know. I'm open to it.
So you've been together 3 years. How much time do you need to know if you want to marry her and start a family?
I would like to see some more stability in our relationship. Things are definitely turbulent sometimes.
But if both
as we've all seen.
If both of you are emotionally out of control and both are crazy, both are crazy, how do you expect it to get better if both are on the same level, the same state of being?
Yeah, so rather than repress our feelings, I still want to be very emotional and express the feelings, but I want to construct a relationship that's like a steel drum that we can bounce around the inside of without it flying apart. And right now it feels a little shaky, so there's a few more bolts I want to put in there before I want to get married.
But how will you do that if you're emotional?
I don't know. That's what I'm trying to figure out.
And so does she want to marry you and start a family with you?
Probably. Yeah, I assume she has some of the same reservations.
Would you consider yourself an alpha male or beta male?
I am an alpha male.
You an alpha male?
Yeah.
What's alpha about you?
When I walk into a room, everybody knows that they should care about what I have to say and what I think. I'm the dark, mysterious, interesting man in the room that everybody wants to listen to.
That sounds more like an ego male instead of an alpha male, more like a beta male.
Oh. Well, it's hard to tell, you know. If you think highly of yourself, maybe you are a beta. I don't know.
Amazing.